Hey everyone, this is the Love of Cinema podcast. We like to talk movies. If you like to talk movies too, you come to the right place.
But Sridevi totally steals the thunder, and I think it has to do much more than her double role.
Well, we know she was magic, absolute magic.
What was it about her, in your opinion, that made her such an unique, widely loved superstar?
See, like Naseer says, acting is a lot of it is hard work and carpentry and preparation and delving into it. You have to prepare for it. She was preparing since the age of 4, and she was doing film after film after film at that age. So can you imagine what, and in all languages? Plus, she was sharp, she was intuitive, she was highly emotional, highly sensitive. I mean, if she was upset, she had to call 10 people and talk to them about it. So she was very, very sensitive. So this combination was phenomenal. It's like Sachin Tendulkar, at 16 you're facing Wasim Akram and all that. So how prepared you are by the time you're 20. So it is inborn talent and the amount of experience this woman had, phenomenal.
Hey folks, this is Himanshu, and you're listening to the Love of Cinema podcast. If I asked you to name some of your favorite comedies, would Andaz Apna Apna make your list? Would one of Priyadarshan's comedies make your list? Our guest today met two of the most quirkiest, craziest Hindi comedies that have had an influence on Andaz Apna Apna, as well as some of Priyadarshan's comedies. He also made Sridevi's most popular film, and an iconic television show that was Pankaj Kapoor's breakout vehicle. An interesting filmmaker who has made some of my favorite films of the 80s. Also someone whose early films remain relatively underdiscovered and criminally underrated. But before that, if you're a first-time listener, do check out prior episodes of the podcast. You can find all episodes on Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, or any of the other pod apps. If you enjoy organic conversations centered on Indian cinema and streaming shows, Love of Cinema podcast was created for people just like you, so do consider subscribing. Also, please do rate and review the podcast in Apple Podcasts, as that will help others with similar taste discover this podcast. So if you like the episode, please rate and review us and help us spread the word. That would be much appreciated. Back to today's episode. Our guest today is director Pankuj Parashar. Ab Ayega Mazaa, Peechha Karro, Karamchand, Jalwa and ChaalBaaz. That's how Pankuj Parashar's 80s filmography reads. Nothing short of impressive. Ab Ayega Mazaa is a crazy wacky comedy starring Farooq Sheikh and Anita Raz, which has one of my favorite Farooq Sheikh scenes of all time. Peechha Karro, Parashar's second film, cranks up the crazy a wee bit more than Ab Ayega Mazaa, and is a bona fide cult classic. It's a film that has noticeably influenced Andaz Apna Apna, especially the track between Amir Khan and his father, played by Devan Verma. Crime Master Go-Go, too, is direct homage to Peechha Karro. Also, the famous no-touch action between Salman Khan and Shakti Kapoor, again, straight from Peechha Karro. It is also one of Anurag Kashyap's favorite comedies. Parashar also met Karamchand, the iconic television detective show, which broke new ground with its cinematography, with its long shots and scenes shot on a handheld camera. The 1987 cop drama Jalwa, starring Naseeruddin Shah, is quite a trip with its stylistic flourishes, the Goan backdrop, and a banging soundtrack. It's a film which feels and plays very differently from most of the action films of the time. You know the famous scene from Rangeela of Urmila dancing by the sea as a mesmerized Jackie Shroff looks on? Straight from Jalwa. And of course, there is ChaalBaaz. ChaalBaaz, by Sridevi's own admission, was her favorite film. Sridevi was so good in that film that she totally overshadowed both of her male co-stars, Sunny Deol and Rajnikant. And my friends, as you know, Overshadowing Rajnikant is not something which happens every day. While chatting about these films, Parashar shared a bag full of anecdotes about making these films. Anecdotes involving everyone from R.D. Burman and Naseeruddin Shah to Kamal Haasan, Ravi Baswani, and Ram Gopal Varma. And some crazy stories, like how what turned out to be Jalwa was originally supposed to be an adventure film based in a jungle with Hemant Birje and Kimi Katkar. We also talked about why ChaalBaaz and Jalwa have aged well, and much, much more. Here's our chat.
Hey Pankaj, how are you doing?
Fine, fine, Himanshu. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you so much, Pankaj. I'm a big fan of your films, and I really appreciate this opportunity to talk with you about those films. So let's get right to it. You have been making films and documentaries for 4 decades now, and most of today's generation are aware of your work from Chalbaz onwards, but very few have watched the films you made before that film. And today I wanted to chat with you about those films and, of course, your show Karamchand, the first detective show on Indian television. But let's start with your very first feature film, Ab Ayega Mazaa. Before we dive into it, I just wanted to set it up. Ab Ayega Mazaa, if you haven't seen, is essentially a crazy comedy that parodies everything from an ad agency to Godmen to the classic Hindi film tropes of a lost sibling and a hidden treasure. Now, my first question to you is, how did this movie come about and what did you set out to make with this film?
It's a long story, but I don't know where. Okay, I was trying to get into making TV commercials, with ad agencies. I used to go to the ad agencies and try and pitch that I am from the Film Institute and, I'm a first class first student, and I got a Filmfare Award for a film I did in the Film Institute, which was quite an achievement. But the ad agency were not willing to listen, and they said, "Okay, you make 5 ads and come back, make 3 ads. How can we trust you? Film Institute, theek hai, but this is Bombay and all that." So I did a documentary called Shakti, which is on a snake cult festival in Rajasthan. So because I won a Filmfare Award for a documentary I did in the mental hospital in the Film Institute, the runner-up was Sham Benegal, by the way. It was a proud moment for me. And he was quite happy to see me also get the award. So I was approached to do a very difficult film, which was in like 47, 48 degrees centigrade in the month of August in the interiors in Rajasthan on a snake cult festival, which is 1,000 years old, called Goga Medi. So I made the film, and then that film also went for film fairs. It was runner-up, and someone saw it. And Alok Nath, the actor Alok Nath, we were a group at Prithvi. Prithvi Theatre was for the unemployed hangarounds, would-be strugglers those days. All of us
Right.
would gather there. And the Anupam Khers and the Shekhar Kapoors and even Javed Akhtar would drop in. Of course, he was a rock star. And Neena Gupta. And all of us were reasonably new and unemployed, kind of. So Alok and me and Girja Shankar, who was another would-be actor. So all of us used to meet every day at Prithvi and kind of wait for the 10 o'clock because the food gets cheaper after 10 o'clock, so our meal used to be cheaper. And Alok was not getting work. He was kind of frustrated. So he said, "Okay, I saw your documentary and I'm very impressed. Let's make a movie." And I'll go back home. His dad was a dentist. So he kind of blackmailed his dad to take 3 lakhs of his life savings and came back to Bombay. But 3 lakhs was not enough for us. So what we did was we opened shop at Prithvi and said, whoever wants a role, you put in 50,000, 1 lakh, 2 lakhs, and we give you a role. So Raja Bundela came in. Ravi Baswani said that I will give all the food and catering I will provide. You give me a role. Girja Shankar put in another 3 lakhs and said, give me a good role. So that's how the movie was. And then we approached Nadira Babbar, who's, this whole group was from Nadira's Ekjut group, theatre group.
Right.
Alok and Raja and Satish Kaushik. Satish Kaushik was assisting me. He was also doing a small role in the film. So we approached Nadira and we said, look, you got to write the dialogue and no money because we are shoestring budget.
Yeah.
So because this whole group of Raja Bundela and Alok Nath and Girija and Satish Kaushik, they were all in a theatre group called Ekjut, which was which was Nadira's group, NSD boys these were. So we approached her to write. We said no money. And we moved into her husband's house because her husband was Raj Babbar, the star, and he was working triple shifts those days, so he was never home. So that became our office. And we wrote there, free food, snacks, everything we used to get. And every time he was coming back, we used to like get scared, collect our files and run off, Of course, he encouraged us and said, young guys making a movie. And then we went to Delhi and we kind of shot in places that were free. And there were parks we used to shoot in and the cops would come. We had to run off because we hadn't paid. It was crazy. You could make a movie about the shoot, because it was totally bananas what was happening behind the camera. But I think 29 days we finished the movie and we came back and then we put it together. Of course, the Muhurat of the movie was another adventure because my dad was with Navketan and he was very friendly with SD Burman and RD Burman and all that. So Pancham was like home ground for us. So my dad introduced me to him and said, my son is doing a movie, so you got to give the music. So he said, yeah, sure. But my neighbors were Anand Milan, who was Chitragupt, the music director's son.
Yes,
we used
yes.
to play together and I used to play the piano in their house. We used to play cricket together as kids. So as time passed during college, we used to get together and make songs. Then there was one guy who turned up suddenly one day and said that I want to write lyrics. I'm from Banaras, and he was Anjan's son. That happened to be Samir, who's now in the Guinness Book of Records as the maximum songs on earth he's written.
Was this Samir's first film as well?
It was not Samir's first film. He had written, I think, one film earlier, but it was kind of unknown.
Right. Because this was Anand Milan's debut.
Yeah, it was their first. So I told my dad, I'm not taking R.D. Burman because Anand Milan are my friends and I'm taking. So my dad smiled. He said, that's a big thing, to tell R.D. Burman was right at the top those days. And R.D. had said, I'm not going to charge a dime because Prashir, this is your son. He's like, it's like family. By the way, when I was born, my dad was sitting with S.D. Burman and the postcard came from Delhi those days that, you have a son, child is a son. So he told S.D. Burman. So S.D. Burman said, Pancham ka bhai aaya hai, uska naam Pankaj rakho. So that's how his name Pankaj.
Oh, wow. Okay. That's a great anecdote.
And Milan, when Milan was born, Milan is actually a Maharashtrian name. Milan was named by Lata Mangeshkar. So what we did as kids, kids, Milan was what, 20 or 22, Anand was 24. We approached Lata Mangeshkar and said, we are making a movie and you have to sing the first song. So she said, okay. So Anand played the song to her. She came for the rehearsal. It was a real magic moment. Raja tere raste se hat jaungi, gaadi ki niche jaake kat jaungi, which Samir wrote. And at the Muhurat, we had, I think it was, the budget was 27,000. We had about 30,000. And Alok and Girja were quite happy till someone told them that if you go into overtime, and it was, I think, 10-1. After 1 is overtime. Then you have to pay 50% more. And that was total panic because if Lata Mangeshkar took take 2, if she went into, and it was live those days, 35, 40 musicians, Lata live, everything was live, one take. And she was sitting around chatting with Milan and Anand, ki ye kaisa asur hai, acha theek hai, acha ye hai, to baki kya papa ki tabiyat. And we were panicking because we had to tell her this thing, And Alok went out of the studio, Tarde's studio, and started doing a Shiv mantra that, have to finish. Because we had it, because if you go after 1, it will be very embarrassing. And Lataji came on and bang on. First take, she sang perfect. All the musicians were perfect. And we had a sigh of relief. There's a photograph somewhere out there, all of us standing like little teenage kids scared. So that was the Muhurat of my career, by Lata Mangeshkar. So I'm quite thankful to her.
And was this always supposed to be like a parody, like a wide spanning parody? Or
my anger in that movie is against, when he says, Raja Bandala says that they work for an ad agency. So all the products I took were Lintas products, Taj and Liril and all that. Because I was so upset with them not giving me work. And what they used to do is any product you put adrak in it, you put nimbu in it, you put, and you're like selling stuff. So in the movie, there is a whole sequence of he says कि हम इसमें ये डालेंगे बोले इसका साबुन से क्या लेना देना बोलता है वो तो हम बताएंगे ना लोगों को क्या लेना देना. Then there is a line also which Samir wrote के शाहजहां का ताज देखो चाय बना है आज देखो.
Right.
बेचो 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 दिल बेचो दिमाग बेचो सब कुछ बेचो चांदी को सोना बना के बेचो. So that was like a
And the
takeoff
ad
on.
agency's mantra is जरूरत के हिसाब से आदमी को फंसाओ.
Yeah. So that was, and the fun part was I went and showed that song to Alyque Padamsee in Lintas, and he was very amused, and then actually got a lot of ads from Lintas after that.
So finally, it worked out for you.
It worked out very well, and so that was, and it was like in Delhi, it was a big hit. It went 2 weeks, all shows full at the big cinema, did well. A lot of people called me. There was a review which said it's not a movie; it's an announcement of a new talent. And Bikram Singh wrote that in I think daily newspaper. So it was pretty well received, and then I signed the next movie because of that.
Ravi Baswani as Siddhi in his cocaine T-shirt is such a hoot. And you worked with him twice. What fond memories do you have of Baswani?
He was a part of the gang. He was part of the gang in Prithvi. And he was also, I think, Ekjut's actor. He used to act in Nadir Ajit's plays. And because he was there in that movie, so we took him again in Peechha Karro. He was very wacky. With Satish Shah, they made quite a pair.
Absolutely. And we will talk about that when we talk about Peechha Karro. But, it's interesting how Ravi Baswani didn't do too many films, but the films which he did, and especially these 3 films, I think 2 films of yours, Ayega Mazaa and Peechha Karro and Jaane Bhi Do Yaro. I mean, that itself kind of, seals his legacy in my books.
Yeah, he was a fun guy.
What a great actor, yeah. I gotta ask you about the upside down pyramid logo and the triskelion logo of Swamiji's ashram. Was there any hidden meaning behind that? Was there any method to that madness?
No, it was just thought it up, And
Okay.
Pawan Malhotra, the actor, he was he was one of the costume assistants in that film.
Oh, okay, I see.
Yeah, he also did a small role, the sadhu assistant.
Yes, he's Swamiji's sidekick, right? Yeah.
He was in charge of the costume partly.
I see. And I see that, one of the original, the rainbow apple logo was featured in Ayega Mazaa. And those are the same colors. So I was thinking that maybe the pyramid colors were taken from that logo or something. And it's like an upside down pyramid steps. So that was always amusing for me.
Just a coincidence.
Right. And one of Farooq Sheikh's greatest scenes of all time came in this movie. And it didn't involve another actor. It involved a table lamp. Sound activated lamp at that. That scene, it's a slapstick scene, but with Farooq Sheikh, it's wildly hilarious. Was that an improvised bit?
No. That is actually in Film Institute. I made a diploma film. For the final, you make a diploma film which was called Sab Maya Hai, which actually was about a crooked sadhu, because we were in Pune and no reference to Osho, because I really like Osho. But
Right.
there was a sadhu, he was manipulating people through music, and there is this madman, of course, my senior from FTI, Satish Shah, who is being experimented upon in a mental hospital through music, and he escapes from there. And he lands up in this house. So you can imagine what happens. It was a wacky movie. I mean, Film Institute means arty movie, money called Kumar Sani, all that, Said Mirzas, all these guys. But all my revered seniors and friends. But I made a totally nut house movie, and fortunately, it was kind of appreciated at that time. So in that, Satisha lands up in the house, and there's this lamp, and he coughs, and it comes on. So that it was from there. So I actually asked Satish to do that, and then of course the Mridang starts, and he does a crazy dance along with the lamp. So it was there in my diploma film. So I used it again in the Ayega Mazaa.
And I also like how Ayega Mazaa effortlessly takes some of the classic Hindi film tropes, like the lost sibling, a hidden treasure, separated lovers, and it gives them the film's signature zany treatment. So it uses those tropes, but it's done within the mood of the film and within the film's framework. Now, was that something that you were taking a dig at these film tropes, or you wanted to do that for the commercial aspects of the film?
It was a mixture of all these things, because in your first movie, you are reasonably innocent, and a lot of factors go into it which are subconscious. You don't plan it or you don't think. The main thing was that I wanted a good look and I wanted Delhi winter, so I was having fun with that. And firstly, you're thankful you get a movie to shoot, and you can finish it without money running out, because every day we had problems. So that every evening was not a creative discussion. The discussion was where to get money for tomorrow. So in the middle of all that, you have to be creative, and it was bloody cold, really cold. And
Right,
we used
right.
to have crazy things like the tripod went missing. So the whole night we shot without a tripod. That there's a song in the movie called 440 Volt Ki Ladki.
Yes, yes.
Notice the camera doesn't move right, left, right, because there was no tripod. It got lost. And we used to shoot for 40 hours, 35, 40, 50 hours at a stretch. Crazy. It was crazy. But the energy is that high, because you're young, it's your first movie, and you're surrounded by all this young talent.
Yeah, that's crazy. I mean, from these are all wonderful anecdotes, and it's not just an indie film, but it's also, it sounds like it was crowdfunded by most of the actors and most of the crew. So that's a wonderful anecdote about the film. Now, Pankaj, moving on, after Ayega Mazaa, you made Karamchand in 1985, which is an iconic detective show, and Pankaj Kapoor's breakout vehicle. Can you tell us how that character of Karamchand was shaped and how you narrowed down on Pankaj Kapoor for that role?
Actually, it's an interesting story. Dharmendra was my dad's friend, very, very good friend from the very beginning. And Betab was being released. So he told my dad that your son is from FTI, so maybe he knows about this new thing called video. So ask him to come over. Meanwhile, Said Mirza had asked me to shoot the titles of his Mohan Joshi Haziro. I was paid 5,000 for that. And I went to Dharmendra's house, like big star, big bungalow and all that. So he said, "Ke putar, mera film la premiere aega tha, tu shoot kar." The fun part was that when I told Dharmendra ji, I said, "Sir, I am shooting these days for Said Mirza." So he said, "Kaun hai Said Mirza? Phone lagao." So I said, "No, no, it's okay." I said, "It's okay." So he said, "My son is being introduced, and you shoot the video, shoot the premiere, and then shoot the party after that. And I will pay you and all that." But I needed the money those days, so I took the job. And I told him there is no video. Where are the cameras? Where is the editing? Those days there wasn't anything much in Bombay. So he said, "No, my friend's son has got some equipment, and he will come and he will." So Getty Galaxy was the premiere, and I covered the premiere and I interviewed Rahul Ravel. Rahul remembers that. And guess who came with the camera, connected the wires, and put it on the tripod and stood next to me? Mansoor, the director
Wow.
Mansoor. Yeah, this is this is before he became a director. So he was like an attendant that day. He was carrying it and connecting the wires and helping me record. So I shot that, and then I shot the party at Sea Rock, and then I edited it. But it was very boring. So I asked Dolly Thakur, who was used to be a newscaster those days, in English on Doordarshan, and she was Alyque Padamsee's friend or whatever. And she went and told Alex. She said, "I shot this thing, and it was very interesting, and the news is fake news, and how I described the movie and everything." So Alec got intrigued. Who's this guy doing video? So he called me, and he found it is me, the one who done Ayega Mazaa. So he said, "Okay, you shoot a program," and we had to shoot something called uh, it was like Kaun Banega Crorepati. It was called Mashhoor Mahal. It was the first quiz program, and the prize was not money, which was not allowed, but it was pressure cooker and all that, toaster and everything. So I was shooting it and I was getting bored. So I told Alec that I'm bored with this and I want to do a detective. So funnily enough, he said, "But detective concept is not very popular in India. I don't know people are going to accept it. Like we don't have a Agatha Christie, we don't have Perry Mason, we don't have Sherlock Holmes here." So I said, there was a program in 60s. It was called Inspector Eagle. Very few people remember because obviously it was 67, I think, 68. And the man who wrote it and produced it, the radio program, used to come to our house on Sundays, and he was my dad's friend. Vishwamitra Adil, his name was.
This was on
And
air? This was on All India Radio?
All India Radio. And Monday 9 to 9:15, you could hear the program all over because the whole country was listening to it. They were glued. In 15 minutes, he would have a case, he would have background music, and the case would be solved. He had an assistant called Hawaldar Nayak, who was like a comedian. And I told him, I said, Uncle, ये मजा नहीं आया क्योंकि खूनी तो मैंने guess कर दिया. So he got a little angry. He said, इतना दम है तो तू लिखना, तेरे को पैसे दूंगा मैं. That paise dunga was very interesting. So I wrote him 8 or 9 plots and I gave it to him, and he actually recorded 5 of those, my plots, and I was paid for it. I think 25 rupees, which was a huge amount those days. Coca-Cola was costing 25 paisa. And I told Alec, I said, boss, I have written Inspector Eagle when I was 13, and you can talk to Vishwamitra Agil and you would know him. And it was very popular. So he said, you're right, Inspector Eagle was the most popular program. So, okay, what do you have in mind? I said, I want to do a detective. So he said, okay, shoot me a pilot. I'll give you money for the pilot, a real like scratch, and I'll give you the camera lights and you can shoot in my house and Lintas as the office and all that, and then make it. Let me see what you have in mind, what you do. And I took my friend Alok Nath as Karamchand. There was no kitty. The carrot was there. And I went to Anand Milan and I said, iska background karte hain thoda. And there was this new boy who came from Nepal, I think, and he used to hang around Anand Milan's house. So we made him sing the signature tune of Karamchand. His name happens to be Udit Narayan. And Samir said, lyrics main likhunga. So lyrics by Samir. There were no lyrics actually. Only Karamchand, one word was there. So we recorded the track on another track, on an English track, because we didn't have the funds to do the thing. And this Karamchand tune that you hear, we recorded on top of that. And I shot it, gave it to Alec. He saw it and he freaked. I still remember him walking all over Lintas with this thumb up, singing Karamchand. And he sent it to Delhi. Delhi sent a telegram back that we highly appreciate and we want it immediately. Then I sent Peechha Karro and I left Bombay, went out to Hyderabad. And Alec kept sending telegrams, phoning. I said, let me finish my movie, then I'll come back, So that was how Karamchand was born. And the crazy thing is that when I came back, Alok and me had an argument. And he said, Doordarshan has accepted me, and now what can you do? You can't change me. I said, of course I can change you. He said, whom will you take? I said, anybody. Look at that. We're sitting at Prithvi at the corner table and talking. I said, anyone. That guy has come from Delhi and he seems to be a good actor. I think he's done a movie. His name is Pankaj Kapoor. मैं उसको ले लूँगा. So he said, जा ले ले. And I went and sat at Pankaj Kapoor's table and I told him, okay, we know each other and I'm from FTI. I've done this movie and there is this detective. Guess what he said? He says, I don't do television. Pankaj Kapoor became Pankaj Kapoor. So I went home and Sudhir Mishra had written the dialogues for the pilot. He got paid 500 rupees for that. So next day I came, I told Sudhir, yaar, ye problem ho gaya. Isko to maine nikal diya log ko, aur ye Pankaj Kapoor sona acha actor hai. तो ही से मैं पंकज को बोलता हूँ, समझाता हूँ, पर तू मेरे को फेवर कर रहा है. सर क्या फेवर करूँ? बोले मेरी वाइफ को तू ले करमचंद. आई सेड डन. बिकॉज़ वाइफ वाज आल्सो एनएसडी, सुष्मिता मुखर्जी. शी वाज सिटिंग देयर. सो आई सेड करमचंद का असिस्टेंट डाल देता है यार, चलो मैं ले लेता हूँ. तो इसको पटा. तो ही वेंट एंड टोल्ड Pankaj Kapoor then agreed in half an hour. Then we shook hands. That's how he was cast.
And how about the whole the mannerisms of Karamchand and the whole carrot eating bit? What was how was that shaped? Was that something that was written by you, Sudhir Mishra, or what was that Pankaj Kapoor's improvisation?
No, carrot was my idea, and Sudhir was then not part of it after the pilot. And when I came back after shooting Peechha Karro, we got into this. So I went to Alec. I said, look, I'm not taking Alok, I'm taking Pankaj Kapoor. So he said, wonderful. Pankaj Kapoor is also a good actor. And bring him over. So we took a train. We used to take a train from Santa Cruz to Churchgate and then walk to Lintas. This is after 2 movies, believe it or not. You know how much I got paid for Peechha Karro? You'll never believe it.
How much?
5,000 rupees.
But at that time, that was a significant amount, right?
That was not significant for a movie. And for Ayega Mazaa, I got paid 12,500. Alok still owes me 12,500.
So you didn't really get paid 12,500.
Yeah, I didn't get. But that's okay. You do a movie. So Pankaj Kapoor and me and Deepak Kasir, who played Inspector Khan, 3 of us would land up at Lintas. And then the fun part was that Alec gave us a room because he loved the pilot and he realized कि कुछ नया करेगा. And we got a video camera and we used to do improvisations all day, because वहाँ free snacks मिलते थे, Coca-Cola सब मिलता था, coffee free. So we used to write little situations and then, the chessboard came in and we would keep improvising. उसमें character बना those 3 4 5 days, and of course Pankaj Kapoor hugely talented as we know now. At that time I didn't know. And the more we shot, the more, and we used to watch it again, And then Alec would come in and give us suggestions, and him having his whole theatre experience, and he would, add his things. So that is how it was made. Before we went on the floor, we did a lot of homework. The character was built slowly. But the funny part was when we shot the first episode, it was absolutely serious, Then the wackiness started coming because Pankaj and me couldn't keep away from the comedy, So we kept making it slightly funny, wacky. And on the first day of the shoot, a cameraman, Sunil Sharma, looked at the camera and it was a low band camera. He was used to 35mm Aeroflex and Mitchell and all those heavy cameras. This was a little tiny low band camera which you could lift with one finger. And he smiled and he said, we can do a lot of handheld with this. And that is how we started moving the camera around.
And another thing about Karamchand, which stands out, is that it has these long shots, which were fairly uncommon for television at that time. It's more like a cinematic approach. What was the idea behind that?
It was basically everything I'd seen in the Film Institute over the 3.5 4 years I spent there. All the international cinema and everything, like Jansko. Jansko used to have one shot in one reel. So the whole reel was one shot. So the whole movie was like 11 shots or 12 shots. So all that we had seen went into this Karamchand. Because of all the excitement and all the passion I had, everything, I was given a free hand by Alec. It was a new kind of a format where there's murder and there's wackiness and there's comedy also, and all the editing that I'd learned from Truffaut and Ray. In FTI, if you want to see a film, you can take it on the Steenbeck. Those days there was no video. And you can watch it all day. There is no restriction. And there are about 10,000 films in the archives those days. So if you see a film in the screening in the evening with all the students and you like it, you can apply to the editing department and say, I want to see the film tomorrow on the Steenbeck. And you can study how it is edited and what the cuts are. Now, of course, everything is there at your beck and call. You can see it on YouTube. So all that study that I did and all that knowledge, everything I put into Karamchand. In fact, Mr. Bachchan had once remarked, that the editing is really good, and he looked up my editor, and then my editor did the documentary for him. But the reaction I got from the industry was phenomenal. The calls I used to get, Kamal Haasan called me one day. That is, Kamal, I want to meet you. I want to have dinner with you. A big fan of Karamchand. Kishore Kumar called me to his house. Manoj Kumar called me and asked me, how did you take that shot? I mean, it's endless, the kind of reaction I had from the industry. So it was fun. And I was, we used to drive down Linking Road when it was on and we could hear the music from both sides.
Oh, wow. What a feeling that would be.
Yeah. It was crazy.
It's a truly pioneering show, no doubt.
Yeah. And I had a good budget. The first time I had a good budget. I mean, it was, for now it's nothing. But that time I had a good budget. And the fun part was that at the 10th episode, I had signed 3 movies. And I chose one movie out of that, which was Jalwa. And then I said, after 26, I'm not doing. It was funny because everybody wanted extension, they're dying for extension. I said, no, I don't want to do it. Now I'll do a movie. So believe it or not, I went off to shoot Jalwa. The last day of Karamchand was the first day of Jalwa. Evening 6 o'clock, 26th episode finished. And then at 7 o'clock, Jalwa shooting started. Same studio. It was a night shoot. And when I shot Jalwa, I came back and Doordarshan started getting 40,000 letters per day from children from all over India. They had a sack full of letters to get to say we want Karamchand back. So Doordarshan called me and Mr. Shiv Sharma, I think, was the DG. And he said, do 13 more, please. So can you imagine? They requested me. So I did 13 more.
Then in 1986, You made Peechha Karro, where parody and absurdity kind of collide to create a brilliant farce. And that is outrageously enjoyable and perhaps a little ahead of its time. Peechha Karro has influenced everything from Andaz Apna Apna to the crazy comedies of Priyadarshan. Do you agree that it was perhaps a little ahead of its time?
I don't know. It has its own fan following. I still meet people who say love the
Oh,
film.
absolutely. It has a cult following, no doubt. I mean, I love that movie, and that big among my friends. And but it still feels like. I mean, at the time of its release, did it do well at the box office?
It did well in Bombay. Strangely,
Okay.
it was released without any fanfare. Suddenly released. Did very well in Bombay. A lot of cinemas around Khar, Bandra, Santa Cruz, really well here. But then I get strange reactions from people. Suddenly, like Anurag Kashyap says, one of my favorite comedies. I loved it. And when they meet me, they tell me one night the whole of Phantom called me from Goa and said we want to do Picha Karo. I don't know. They must be partying after a movie.
Yeah, it's a terrific movie, and the scenes between Ravi Baswani and Satish Shah are some of the craziest in the history of Hindi film, in my opinion. Insanely funny, and they made for such a terrific comedic duo.
See, what happened was that I fortunately came across a writer called Rajesh Majumdar, and
Yes, yes,
him and me thought the same. We had the same wacky comedy, totally nutty.
yes. Mujumdar, he
And
wrote a couple of films for Dada Kaun Kya, I know. So I
no,
think,
no, 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 no. He's not couple. He, I think, is the most successful director in Bollywood. He's unknown. I mean, he did 13 Golden Jubilees in a row for Dada Kunke.
okay. Because
And
I was looking up his credits in IMDb, and it only listed two. So,
no. He was Dada Kunke's right hand. And he
okay.
never left his job. He was with Air India right through, even when he wrote for me. And him and me thought the same. We had the same mad sense of humor. And the producer, fortunately, agreed with us. Otherwise, no producer would have backed such a wacky movie. So we wrote it in different restaurants, Irani restaurant and things like that. We used to sit and write the situation. And when I went to narrate it to Amjad Khan, he said, "You're totally mad, but I'm doing the film." So he became part of the team.
And those scenes between Satisha and Ravi Baswani, they're just, like I said, insanely funny, like crazy lunatic scenes. What do you remember about shooting those scenes? And can you share any anecdotes about those?
We used to we see there was a hotel called Rock Castle in Hyderabad. It's a very famous hotel. It's made inside a rock, and a lot of film people stay there. The middle range budget film. So the whole movie was shot there. 80% was shot in there or around there. So we used to improvise in the evening and go through the scenes. And I think Satisha's sense, because I'd already done, we were together in FTI when I was in first year, he was in second year. So I spent a year watching him do his improvisations and all that. So I was comfortable with him, and I knew how nutty he was. He's a total nutcase in real life. He's so funny. So we were free to improvise and do things and come up with new things. And Ravi was a total opposite of Satish. Satish had this uh, Mumbai pedestrian kind of humor, and Ravi was slightly British, that kind of humor. So they're both opposite of each other, and they're constantly trying to outdo each other. So I suppose mostly improvised.
I see. But that came off so well. And like I said, I think those are one of the funniest scenes in Hindi film. I mean, I've seen those scenes so many times. And the thing about these movies are that now you have there is a decent print of Picha Karo, but up until a few years ago, it was very hard to access good prints of these films. Even today, the Ayega Mazaa DVD that I have is not exactly a great print, but it's at least better than what you can find online.
Yeah. Also, there is a scene in Peechha Karro which was really improvised by two great artists, Amjad and Farooq Sheikh, who are no more with us. Was the drunk scene where he wears a wig and he has drinks and he comes in, and that was done in one shot, where he tells
Wow.
Amjad, the whole
Yes,
scene is
yes.
to see it, I say 3.5, 4 minutes in one shot. It's one of the classic drunken scenes. It's partially unknown because a lot of people haven't seen the movie and don't know that scene. But if you see it, what these two have done, we had to stop ourselves from laughing because we cracked up. And half of that not written. They just improvised it. And both being like Xavier's theater experienced people, they went to town on that. I was very happy with that scene.
The great thing about this movie is that almost everybody has brought their A game. I mean, from Amjad Khan and Farooq Sheikh to Rajendra Nath, and everybody is so good in this film that it's just a crazy little comedy that I wish more people would discover.
Now that
brings us. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, tell me. I said now they will after you spoken well about.
I hope so. Yes. That's one of. Seriously, that's one of the reasons why I wanted to do this podcast with you because I've grown up in 90s and so I am fairly familiar with these movies. But some of the kids today, I mean, I think they will dig this kind of comedy, but they're simply not aware that there are movies like these in Hindi. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to do this podcast with you, so that, in my little own way, I will maybe help at least somebody discover these good films, But getting back to our chat here, that brings us to your next film, Jalwa, which is another film that I like a lot. And of course, Jalwa is a big hit. Everybody knows about Jalwa, mostly even the millennials today have most probably seen Jalwa. But you did something very interesting with Jalwa, where the underlying premise is very similar to Beverly Hills Cop. But you told that story in a rather unique way for an 80s mainstream Hindi film, in a highly stylized fashion, employing a very tropical sound for the soundtrack and fully embedding the Goan backdrop. Jalwa is a film that feels and plays very differently than most of the 80s Hindi cop dramas. Was that deliberate or did it just pan that way?
I just did what I felt like doing. There was no planning.
I see.
And every film has its own horoscope and its own Janampatri. And you'll never believe what movie I signed and what I made. Because Gul Anand he was a producer of Jalwa. He had made Chashme Badur with Sai Panch Pe. When Gul Anand called me, he said that I want to make a jungle movie. And I want to take Hemant Birje and Kimi Katkar. Tarzan had just become a big hit. So I said, okay, let's write a story. The plane crashes and they meet Tarzan in the jungle. He's not Tarzan, but he's like a wild man. And then there are 4 or 5 girls and how he rescues them, all kind of that. So I was not very happy with the story, but he said, okay, we'll develop it. And I liked your style because he's the first one who was very excited because he was discussing Karamchand in detail. It seemed he used to record it and used to analyze it and all that. And I said, okay. And then there was a friend of mine, and I had gone to return a book to a house because she said, I want the book urgently. And so I said, I'm going to come right now and give it back. And there was some kind of I went to a house and there was a party going on, which is in Khar, near my house, 2 roads away. There's Parmeshwar, Godrej, and a lot of people in the party. And sitting next to the wall on the terrace, on the ground, with a long beard and white kurta pajama with a steel glass in his hand, drinking rum, was Mr. Naseeruddin Shah. And because we knew each other from FTI and he had seen my documentary and kind of appreciated what I was doing. So he said, come here, what are you doing? So I said, I'm doing a movie. And I'm doing something like Tarzan. So he said, okay, who's in it? I said, it's action movies and I need like a guy with a good body. So I've taken Hemant Birje. So he says, take me. So I smiled. He had just done Par. He was, I think, 68 kilos that time. He was thin, underweight. So I laughed at him. I said, I need someone with a body. I'm doing this action movie. And I went away. He called me the next day and he said, I've joined C-Rock. I'm going to do bodybuilding and I want to do that role. I said, don't know the script also. He said, tu achhi banayega yaar, tune Karamchand banaya. So I went to Gul Anand and I told him, Naseeruddin Shah has got these zany ideas. He wants to build his body and do an action movie. Gul Anand jumped up. He says, his actual line was, Naseeruddin Shah can play Mickey Mouse. So let's take him. So we called Naseer, we met him, and we said, yeah, okay, let's do it. That's how he was cast. There was no story that time.
Wow, what a story.
Yeah, then we decided to get new writers. So we are sitting in his office. So Gul was like a methodical taskmaster. So he called 15, 20 writers, and all of them were given 10 minutes to write a scene. I said, Rajesh Majumdar is part of the movie. I don't care. Whoever you take, but he has to be in the film. They said, done. So this guy comes with, a writer comes with orange clothes and Rajneesh beads and all that, and he writes a scene and he narrates to us. I freaked out. I said, this is damn good writing here. Who's this guy? He's actually the creative head of Rediffusion. His name is Kamlesh Pandey. So I said, done. Let's take him. So that was Kamlesh's big break. I think he'd written one movie for Amol Palekar. So Gul, me, Rajesh, and Kamlesh Pandey took off to Goa, and we hired a jeep, and we drove up and down writing the story of Jalwa. That is how it happened. If Nasir was not at the part, if I had not got like an angry call to return my book now, I would not have gone there. I would have taken Hemant Birje and Kimi Katkar. We met Kimi also. We met them. Jalwa would not have been there if not for that. Can you imagine? I mean, it's just pure chance.
By the way, I would have watched that film too because I loved Kimi.
Yeah, I don't know how the other film would have shaped. It would have been good also.
Hey, by the way, I always wanted to ask you this. In Jalwa, when Naseeruddin Shah arrives in Goa and he's walking, he's just walking around the city and he runs into two drunkards who he asks for some direction. One of them is you, right?
One of them me. Other is Sunil Sharma, the cameraman.
Oh, okay. I see.
Yeah. Before I forget, Kamlesh Pandey was unknown, so when the movie released, we had a Film Institute premiere, Metro Cinema. So the whole industry was there, from Rajesh Khanna to Subhash Ghai. Literally the whole industry was there at Metro. And Subhash Ghai was sitting next to me. And a few scenes into the movie, he was listening to the dialogues. There was one scene about तुम्हारी माँ थके कदमों से कैसी लगेगी प्रेसिडेंट से अवार्ड लेते हो तुम्हारी मौत के बाद एंड नसीर टेल्स मी तो तुम अपनी माँ से पूछना जो शायद तुम्हारे बाप का नाम नहीं जानती तो the moment that dialogue was over Subhash Ghai looks at me and says dialogue writer कौन है? I said Kamlesh Pandey. अब मेरा हो गया. So that was Kamlesh then wrote a lot of films for Subhash Ghai. Of course, he went on to write 150 movies, won a lot of awards, everything. But that was like his first splash, Kamlesh's.
Right. And again, this is a film that has had a wide influence on several films since then. Rangeela is one that comes to mind because Jojo Dancing by the Sea at Ford and Wada in Goa must have been a reference for Ram Gopal Varma. I mean, I don't know if he...
No, it was.
If you guys have spoken or...
No, he spoke to me about it. It totally was. He was totally zapped.
Right.
Yeah.
And
by the way,
some of the...
By the way, that Dekho Dekho Ye Jalwa was not in the film. It was not recorded.
Really?
But no, when we went off to shoot, there was going to be some dummy tune or something which we thought we'll do later and all that. And one night, Nasir and me were driving from Sidade. We were driving back to Bamboo Motels to drop me, and we drove past Seolim, where Remo used to stay, and the lights are on. And Nasir said, it's 2 in the night, iska light on hai yaar, Remo ka, chal, let's go say hello. So I said, no, tomorrow morning shift. All that. He said, chalna, Feni peete hain iske yahan pe jaake. So we went and Remo was composing something. So I told Remo, just compose a line that come and watch the movie. Dekho, dekho, ye hai Jalwa. Maybe we'll make a promo later when the movie is coming out. So Remo said, okay. So he programmed that on Tascam, which is a 4-track little cassette thing, He programmed that beat and he sang that. The moment he sang it, my wrongte khade hote na jo, I said, oh, what is this, yaar? Remo, you record 1 minute of this, please. तो 4 बजे तक हम लोग उसको रिकॉर्ड कर रहे थे. सुबह की शिफ्ट है 7 बजे की, 4 बजे तक हमने रिकॉर्ड किया. मैं कैसेट लेके आया वापस. And we had a big bus in which the unit would go. Johnny Lever and everybody used to sit in that bus and go. So I played it on the speakers. The whole bus started like jumping up and down. And I knew I had something extraordinary. So I called up Golanand. I said, I have got a song and I'm doing Archana's introduction on this song. So he says, but I said, I'm doing it tomorrow. So he said, tomorrow there's no choreographer. I said, I don't need a choreographer. I'm going to shoot it. So he called up Remo and he said, record this final. वो तो scratch था ना जो हमारे पास था. So Remo was paid a princely sum of 5,000 for that. He took a month to do it. But the introduction of Archana is on this scratch. which is not the actual thing that is playing. The tempo was the same, so we shot it. So next day we went and shot this whole thing. And believe it or not, Holy Day, we're going to Jew, every car was playing this song. अब किसको बताऊं मैं कि इतने फ्लूक से बना था गाना, उसका फिर रीमिक्स बना, फिर क्या क्या हुआ पता नहीं उसका. But it was just chance. Like I say, every film has its own horoscope.
Yeah, yeah. Like they say, I mean, most classics are happy accidents.
Johnny Lever का role इतना नहीं था film में. You know what he would do? He would stand in the bus and perform. Supposing our location is 1 hour away and the cameraman, recorders, actors, everybody's in the bus. He would go to the front of the bus and he would perform and have us in splits. He was not known. This Johnny Lee was actually first proper movie. He had done one scene before this in Love 86. He was not known. We didn't know he was such a phenomenal talent. So when he performed, he did this Ashok Kumar thing. I said, "Isko picture mein dalo yaar." So we put it in the film. That scene on the TV which he does, that was put there on location.
Interesting. And some of the character names in this film, Mohan Joshi, Albert Pinto, names from Syed Akhtar Mirza's films. Curious to know, what was that all about? Was that your small homage to Syed Mirza, or is there some story behind this?
No, Saeed was in third year when I was in first year. And Saeed was arty and he was leftist and all that. And we used to have a lot of discussions on everything, in the evenings in the Wisdom Tree. You know what the Wisdom Tree is? It's like a central spot in the Film Institute where.
Yes.
Yeah.
In fact, I actually grew up a couple of blocks from the Film Institute.
Oh, wow. Where? Law College Road?
So I grew up on Prabhat Road.
Prabhat Road, okay. Yeah, that's homegrown for us. So I was from Bombay and my neighbors were all filmmakers, commercial filmmakers. The Ramesh Sippy and Manoj Kumar and Devendra Goyal and all that. So I didn't have a clue. When I was 19, I told my dad that I want to assist Vijay Anand because he's my favorite director. So he took me to Vijay Anand and Vijay Anand said, "You can join because I got my break because of your dad." When Vijay Anand was 21, my dad told Devanand, "Take him because I've heard the script." So that's how Vijay Anand got his first script, his first film, Autogera, because of my dad. So he says, "You're like family, you join, but if you assist me, you're going to learn from one person. If you join the Film Institute, you're going to learn from a lot of people, a lot of minds, and a lot of films that you'll see there. You'll be exposed to cinema." So I said, "I don't want to do that kind of films, the arty types and all that." Film Institute was famous that time for art movies. So he said, "Okay, son, you first get in. You get in and then you spend a month there and then tell me. If you don't get in, fine, I'm here." So my dad said, "Yeah, I agree with him." So I went to the institute and I got in. And after 2 weeks, by the first 2 weeks, I blew my mind. I said, it's another world. The kind of films you're watching and, day after day, 2 films, 3 films per day. Of course, the food was bad and the ragging was there and all that was there, which comes, it's like a package, But the movies I saw, and I came back to Bombay, I met Mr. Vijay Anand. I said, "I want to touch your feet because you've done something fantastic. Ye to kamal ki jagah hai." So my whole exposure was also the minds that I met there, the Ketan Mehta, the Vinod Chopra, the Kundan Shah, they were all my seniors. So we were in the mess with them, we were in the canteen with them, we were in the main screening with them, in the discussion with them. So that was like a great growing experience. And Saeed was one of the people who really encouraged me. He says, "You're mad. You're totally different from everybody else. Everybody is making us, we had a sad situation to make. I made that into comedy." He says, "You look at the world totally from an opposite point of view." Then I shot a song picturization, which he really liked. So it was like a homage. Yeah. It was like a respect to him, Mohan Joshi. I don't think he found it funny, but
And then there is that Naseeruddin Shah dialogue with Satish Kaushik too, right? That they'll make a movie on your life.
yeah, Mohan Joshi has it.
Also, Pankaj, interesting to observe some quirky recurring motifs in your films. For example, the lizards, the shots of lizards. I remember there is a shot in Ayega Mazaa on the window pane. We see lizard. Then in Jalwa in the cemetery, there is a lizard.
That was just a fluke. Yeah, the early morning.
Okay.
symmetry. I saw it there, so I shot it. It was just kind of eerie, so I put it there.
Right. And Stardust magazine makes an appearance too in your films. When the Chowkidar at the Swami's ashram is reading Stardust.
Yeah,
Satish
yeah, yeah.
Kaushik is reading Stardust in Jalwa.
Yeah. It was a popular magazine those days,
Right,
and that was Kamlesh Pandey's wackiness, and he says, "क्या film stars के राशन कार्ड होते होंगे?" I mean, what a question.
right. And then there is Javed Khan as a taxi driver in at least two movies that I can recall.
Yeah, yeah. He was in Peechha Karro, so he was kind of typecast in that. Was Basu Chatterjee's nice of him to play that role,
Yes,
because
yes.
yeah, it was in real life. The Rajni he had made against taxi drivers, they were very upset with him. So we thought we'll have some comedy with that.
Finally, we got to talk about Sridevi and ChaalBaaz. We lost Sridevi a couple of years ago, the biggest of female superstars.
Yeah.
I would say ChaalBaaz is her best movie, in my opinion, at least.
I think Sridevi agreed with you because in her biography, she's
Has
said
she
actually
mentioned that?
went
Okay.
into, yeah, she said that's the best film. She had in an interview in I think to Showtime.
Right.
Privately, of course, she would tell me that it's the best. And he used to say, "Collar up mat karna, lekin tumne sab se." I mean, that was a real compliment because I think she had done 280 films by then, by the time she.
Yes. And it's a movie in which she unarguably, overshadowed two of the biggest stars of the time, Sunny Deol and Rajnikant. How
But
did she manage to do that?
they didn't have much choice because she had a double role.
Right. But it's impossible to overshadow Rajnikant in the first place. And Sunny Deol is also, who was a big star at that time. But Sridevi totally, steals the thunder, and I think it has to do much more than her double role.
Well, we know she was magic, absolute magic.
What was it about her, in your opinion, that made her such an unique, widely loved superstar?
See, like Naseer says, acting is a lot of it is hard work and carpentry and preparation and delving into it. You have to prepare for it. She was preparing since the age of 4, and she was doing film after film after film at that age. So can you imagine what in all languages? Plus, she was sharp. She was intuitive. She was highly emotional, highly sensitive. I mean, if she was upset, she had to call 10 people and talk to them about it. So she was very, very sensitive. So this combination was phenomenal. It's like Sachin Tendulkar, at 16, you're facing Wasim Akram and all that. So how prepared you are by the time you're 20. So it is inborn talent and the amount of experience this woman had, phenomenal. And modest
And what do
about
you
it.
Right. And what do you think is about ChaalBaaz that, like very few films, it seems to connect across generations. And even today, people are, most people, like I said, of at least today's generation will know you by ChaalBaaz.
I think there are a lot of moments, and again, I'll go back to what I keep saying, that every film has its own horoscope. The thing is, when Jalwa's prints were coming out, in Prasad Studios, and I was watching it just to check the prints. I should go there sometimes. And there was a man sitting in front, and when the movie got over, he got up, old man, and he looked at me. I realized this is L.V. Prasad. And he had a stick in his hand. And L.V. Prasad, he's like a great filmmaker down south. So I bent down and touched his feet and all that. And he smiled and he said that nice movie, nice movie. So he called up Purnachandra Rao and he told him that, you keep making movies in South and you keep making same thing. Sign this guy. This guy is different. So that call had gone to Purnachandra Rao. And then Purnachandra Rao knew my dad. So he came to Bombay and he said, I want to meet your son. So I went to meet him. And my dad said one thing. He says, he's the Amitabh Bachchan producer. He's number one at the moment. When you walk out of the house, you sign a movie. No matter what it is. Don't don't try and show your film institute this, that. So Purnachandra told me, you have anything in mind, any script? So I said, can you get me Sridevi? So he said, yeah, puppy like home. His actual line was puppy like home. Puppy is her pet name. And he had worked with her earlier, I suppose, in New Version. So I said, sir, let's do Sita Gita. That was it. He said, okay. And we discussed my price and we shook hands. And I walked out. I said, what has that just happened? I signed a movie with Purnachandara with Sridevi in it.
Wow.
Yeah, came and I sat in my car and I kind of breathed, and then I came home and told my dad. Because my dad called him. My dad told me, yeah, he's confirmed it. He's doing it. Next day, Purnachandra called me and said, I've got her dates. She didn't know what movie, didn't know anything about me, and he called her. She was in America or someplace. She gave the rough dates from June. Then Kamlesh, me and Rajesh Mazumdar went off to his guest house in Chennai to write. 10 days flat, we wrote the film. And the fun part is that Kamal Haasan I was quite friendly with him those days. So I used to call him in Chennai in the night and I used to tell him, these are the scenes. He said, boss, don't change the Bible. I can see what you're doing. You're trying to mess it up. Don't change the Bible, which is good advice. He says, it has got a backbone and it has got a particular graph. Don't mess with that. Uske upar tum dalo jo dalna. So that was pretty good advice. Then,
So
of course,
build on what was already there in Sita and Gita.
Yeah, he says you will have your own stamp on it. You will have your own style. You are very different from Ramesh Sippy. Sridevi is very different from Hema Malini. And you have Rajnikant and Sunny there also. It'll be different. So don't worry about people saying, "Arey Sita Gita bana raha hai." People are doing Shakespeare's plays 100 times. Nobody complains that Shakespeare ko copy kar raha hai. Tum Shakespeare kar rahe ho to karo na. Usko change kyun karte ho? So then I came and there were no dialogues, and suddenly Purnachandra calls me and says, Madam wants to meet you. So I went to the studio and she was doing some movie she was wearing feathers and she had blue contacts and she was looking like something out of some fairy tale, and she comes and sits opposite me and she smiles and she says, yes, tell me. So I didn't have the story ready. We had a brief screenplay. So I narrated to her the story of Sita Gita. And at the end of it, she smiled at Purnachandra and told him something in Telugu. And he said, okay, madam is okay. Later on, I told her, I said, मेरे पास कहानी नहीं थी. She's saying, I knew you were rattling off Sita Gita to me. I knew what you were doing. But then she had seen Jalwa, so she said, okay, let's go, let's do it. But ChaalBaaz, one thing which I'm pretty proud of is that, again, I go back to the Film Institute, is that there is a particular mathematics to lenses and angles when you're shooting, ChaalBaaz, if you see today, it looks like today's movie. When after she died, they had a screening, free screening in PVR, so we invited a lot of people. They all remarked the same thing, aaj ki picture lagti hai. Because if you follow that mathematics of the lenses, which is basically ray, and the cutting angles, your movie will remain fresh. Because your cinema is of a different kind, don't zoom in, zoom out, and all kinds of things. So if you see ChaalBaaz, even Jalwa, it looks like today's movie, That's in the cinema. That is the Film Institute training, the hours and hours of that.
Right.
If I say so myself, modestly.
No. I mean, Jalwa especially. I mean, I haven't seen ChaalBaaz now in many years, but Jalwa I just watched recently for our discussion today, and I watched the other two films as well. Jalwa definitely seems fresh even today, and I think it definitely has to do with the way that you were just saying, the way you have shot it. But at least my opinion is that it also looks fresh because it's very different. It stands out from the other cop dramas, like I said, of that time. There were some other very entertaining films, cop dramas then, like Yudh or, some other films.
By the way, ChaalBaaz had Paresh Rawal in it as the villain. He was signed.
In place of
And
Anupam Kher?
there was no Anupam Kher. It was Paresh Rawal. I liked Paresh. I wanted to take him, and we actually discussed things, the Chabuk and all that with him.
Right.
And then what happened was, when I was in the institute in third year, the NSD class was sent, and those because we didn't have actors in institute, so we asked the ministry to send NSD actors. So there was Satish Kaushik and Anupam Kher and a lot of people in that class who used to run after us, put us in the screen, make us in front of the camera. Oh, camera ke samne aaye nahi the kabhi. So Anupam was my friend from those days. Satish Kaushik, first time he appeared in front of a camera was in my song picture. that time. So when we came to Bombay, Anupam went through a lot of hell, and he had no money, and he was going through a divorce and all kind of thing. And he was sitting at Prithvi, and he was saying, "I'm leaving Bombay. I'm going." I had two acting students. I had to teach them. वो भी चले गए. मेरे पास पैसे नहीं है. मेरे बाल गिर रहे हैं. लोग मेरे पास हंसते हैं. And he was going back to Simla, and I read his hand. Both of us unemployed, sitting there. And believe it or not, something hit me when I can't read hands. I was just fooling around, and something hit me, and I saw his whole future. And I took out 11 rupees and I gave him. I said, "Anupam, here, you're a big star. I'm seeing you with Amitabh Bachchan. Forget it. You are in Hollywood. You Mercedes. तू तो बहुत बड़ा बंदा है यार. I'm giving you 11 rupees. अपनी पूजा वाली जगह पर रख और पूजा करो. तू sign कर लेगा picture." So he smiled, and I said, "This is my rickshaw money. I'm going to go by bus home today. I'm giving you 11 rupees signing." And he signed Saransh after that. And the rest is history. He says, even when he does his play, Kuch Bhi Ho Sakta Hai, when I'm in the audience, he narrates this incident. That was the first to sign him. I saw his future and all that. So what happened in ChaalBaaz was that after it was kind of announced and everybody knew I'm doing with Sridevi, Anupam landed at Purnachandra's house. And he told Purnachandra, "I'm not eating, I'm not drinking, I'm not moving from here. You throw out Paresh Rawal and take me in your movie." So Purnachandra calls me and says, "This boy is sitting here and he's doing this," because he had done the movie with Amitabh, no, Purnachandra's before this, Akhir Rasta, I don't remember which one. So I said, "Sir, he is very obstinate. He will do this movie, but I'm not going to talk to Paresh Rawal. You tell him this news that you're not doing, Anupam is doing." So he said, "I'll handle it." So Purnachandra spoke to Paresh Rawal. I don't know what he told him. And Anupam was in ChaalBaaz. That's how it happened.
Nice story.
Like I said, Janampatri. And Rohiniya Tangade I had done an episode in Karamchand. So she called me and she said, "I'm part of your movie." I said, "Aja bhai." So that's how she came in.
Oh, you had worked with her in Jalwa too, right?
Yeah, she was in Jalwa too. She said, "I'm your lucky mascot. Don't do a movie without me." So I took her. And I'm so glad because they were too wacky as hell. Nutcases. Both of them put a lot of color into it, They made it a
Yes,
different-
absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. So nice. I enjoyed talking. I enjoyed reliving the memories. And like they say, picture abhi baki hai mere dost.
Yes. So I was going to ask you, like, what's on the cards? When are you making a film again?
You'll see now. You'll see the announcement. So thanks a lot.
Thank you so much, Pankaj. Thank you.
Those were some crazy anecdotes. Hope you enjoyed the chat and those anecdotes. Like I said before, Pankuj Parashar's early films remain relatively underdiscovered and criminally underrated. This was a small attempt, in my little way, to change that. So if you haven't watched some of the films we spoke about, I hope I was able to convince you to give them a shot. I would like to thank Avnish Parashar, Pankaj's nephew, who helped me reach out to Pankaj. I met Avnish on Twitter. For all of Twitter's noise and toxicity, it's still a cool place to connect with people who share your taste in cinema and meet new people. If you liked the episode, do spread the word. And don't forget to subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen to your podcasts. Also, do drop us a review when you get a chance. You can follow me on Twitter at loveofcinemasf8 for podcast-related updates and my tweets on all things movies. That's the episode. This is Himanshu signing off, and like always, thank you for listening to the Love of Cinema podcast.